All right. We are live. Welcome, everybody, to yet another show. Always takes people a few minutes to get on. I was just getting the tournament results ready to all share and take a look at. The good, the bad, the ugly. We have boater Corey Bowman, who was actually my boater on Saturday. He's got to come join us for a talk here. He just texted me. He's having some laptop tech problems here, so he should be joining us shortly. Hope everybody weathered the storm here. That was a hot one. I had 64 ounces of Gatorade, and it still wasn't enough. I was pretty toasty. Went home, took a cold shower. Thought I would nap. I didn't nap, but I fell asleep about 8:30. Decided not even to go out and fish on Sunday. I went outside about 7 o'clock, and it was already just thick and hot and humid and pretty icky here, and I decided to take a break. All right, 6 people here. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Brad has arrived. I'm glad to see you got home okay. You're looking like a horse taken out, ridden hard, and left dry. Thank God for the wind. How about it, man? If we didn't have that wind, it would have been horrific. I fished 2 tournaments 2 days in a row 2 years ago, and it was at the end of June. One was just like a 15 boater on Lake Pena. It was 95 degrees and like 90% humidity here. And then the next day we went down to Wren Lake for a USA bass, and same thing. But at least there was a little bit of wind on the first day, not a lot, but there was more on Wren Lake. I didn't feel good for like 3 days. I'm a lobster. Yeah, I toned down. I got a good base tan, except I'm getting the raccoon sunglasses deal here. Yeah, man, we were getting some pretty big swells out there. I forgot how churned up Shelbyville can get here. I mean, it seemed like Lake of the Ozarks there by about noontime. All right, here we got Corey. Hey, Corey, you worked out your problems. Cool. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear. You got good light on you too.
Awesome, good. How's everybody this evening?
Everybody's talking about being a lobster, and thank God for wind. You're looking a little red there yourself. How's your neck feeling? It was
Yeah,
blazing
I
when you
spent a lot
said
of time in the air
something.
conditioning yesterday recovering. I know that.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw a guy in my St. Louis musicians meetup group, and he posted on Facebook. You know how you can post in a relationship? He said with air conditioning.
Absolutely.
I thought it was funny. I never saw that one before. How about the guy in the paddleboard? Oh, I didn't see a guy on a paddleboard. You see a guy on a paddleboard, Corey?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, they're out there. Big boats, little boats, kayaks. I know on my little lake, it's amazing. 5 years ago, there was like one person with a fishing kayak and like 1 or 2 people that would kind of just, pleasure paddle around.
Yep.
Now there's probably 24 kayaks and some of those windsurf boards and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, the kayaks kayaks have definitely blown up the last couple of years. There's no doubt about that. You got to be careful sometimes running down the lake. You don't see them and they come out of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah. Like that cove we went into, the kid's dad was out jet skiing with one of the kids, and the other kids are swimming in the middle of the cove where they could get just run over. Oh my God, that was scary. I'm glad his dad came back. Well, welcome to the show, Corey. I took a quick look. It looks like you've hopped in a couple of BFLs on Shelbyville over the past couple of years. Other than that, I didn't see anything else. I know you do a lot of Bass Nation, so why don't you give us just a little background about yourself?
Yeah, I've started fishing BFLs. I think Saturday was my 4th one. I fished just the Shelbyville ones. Never been to any of the other wonderful Illini division locations. Haven't talked myself into it. My main goal is just to try to make the regional. So with only 60 boats, 2 Shelbyville tournaments, I think I jumped to 27 in points. I should be pretty safe for that. So I don't plan to probably fish anymore. Fish a little bit of Illinois Bass Federation tournaments here or there, local team stuff, Clinton Lake Jackpot tournaments. That's about it this year. I'm going to travel. I did go to Pickwick for a Bass Nation qualifier back in March, and I'm going to Erie in July to fish a Bass Nation qualifier, try to qualify for the national championship there. Other than that, that's about it.
Oh, that's awesome. You say local tournaments. Where's home to you? Where's local? What's your home lake?
I live in Leroy, Illinois, so I'm about 20 minutes from Clinton Lake. So I fish the Jackpot Series out there.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I haven't been up to Clinton. I know we talked about that a little bit. I've driven by a couple times just to check it out, and I was there during summer. And I forget what the main marina on the north side is there, but oh my God, I saw like 20, 30 huge boats in line to come out. And I said, there's no way I'm going to sit here on a summer day and wait that long to get in and out.
It can get crowded, and I think it's only, they call it maybe 5,000 acres, but for boat wise, it's probably 3,500 or 4,000 acres. It gets crowded in the summer out there, definitely.
Yeah. I haven't seen Lake Shelbyville that busy this year yet, and I don't remember being that busy last year. I think there's a lot of cooped up people with the weather being so icky so far, and everyone had to get out. Yeah. So you did really well. Corey got a 6th place here. He was sitting in 5th place when he came in with only a few people to weigh in. Thought he was going to get that piece of hardware. And was it your buddy Hunter scoped you out by like an ounce?
1 ounce. Yep. My boy, I told my boy that was my main. I got a 14-year-old son. I told him that was my main goal going down there. I just wanted a piece of, BFL hardware, and missed it by an ounce. So, as tournament guys, all that does is just drive us a little harder to, work a little harder next time.
Yeah, here I took a little snip of the boater results. 14.81. I think everyone was talking about it. It kind of surprised us a little bit. Everyone was expecting 17 or 18 to win. Thought it would be prime summertime. Thought they'd be out deep on points and getting some big ones out there, and that did not seem to happen, except for Jim Jones, who got the big boy. And I hope Jim's on and we can talk about that a little bit. But Jeremy Mull won with 14.8. He's a pound ahead of Andy Harper. Andy's always in the top 10. Todd Blakeman, he's always in the top 10, 20. Garrett Superhammer, kind of having a slump year like Jeff, but not nearly as bad as Jeff. And then Hunter, Hunter. I haven't seen his name before. How do you know Hunter?
Well, he's just one of the Wabash guys. I actually met him at the Casey's that morning. I seen the Wabash wrap, and we've got a local kid, Dalton Phelps, that comes and fishes the Clinton stuff when they're not in school. So I just introduced myself to Hunter. And so, yeah, I just actually met him Saturday morning. And then I actually went over to him after the tournament and joked. I told him I'd trade him my $500 check for the hardware, but he didn't oblige. So
was it his first piece of hardware too?
Check still.
Was it his first piece of hardware too?
No, actually, this was his 3rd BFL. So he top 5 in both of the Shelbyville BFLs last year. He got a 3rd and a 4th in the 2 Shelbyville BFLs last year, and then he got a 5th now. So,
oh wow!
I imagine before long he'll be in that top spot.
Yeah. Joshua, he was standing right next to us and introduced himself when we were sitting there in line. Yeah. Pretty tightly packed here. 12-5, 12-3, 12-2, 12-1, 11-13, 11-12. Bobby, I think, Bobby McMullen, he's like 82. I think he's winning AOI this year.
Yeah, and he won the May Shelbyville tournament out there.
Yeah. And kind of the usual suspects coming up here too. And then a quick look here on On the co-angler side, Ken Landreth, Ryan Murphy, he's already the author. Dan Brown, Dan's on sometimes. Hey, congratulations, Dan. Brandon, he comes and goes and always does well.
So
Wade Fair.
Arthur was the guy, my buddy pulled up and talked to us there, and Dowdy, that Arthur Brown, that was the guy that was his co-angler.
Oh, really? Okay.
It sounds like they had a pretty good morning, and then, yep, that was him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know who that was. Yeah. Yeah, he hammered him, and your boater buddy missed him from what he said, huh? Lost him. Gary's always.
I think he might be on the feed tonight. Let's not give him too hard of a time.
Well, welcome. Let's see. Gary's always up there. Dale's always up there. Matt's been doing really well. And it goes down to of the normal crew here that I can see here. Dan Brown would be tops, and Brad. I think you were like 16th. You were just below the cut, just below the money line.
Is that a typo? It says Dan Brown, 1 fish, 610.
Yeah, no, that's a big bass. Brad was talking about it.
I missed
That's
that.
a honker.
Dan always catches them. He fishes the Bass Federation stuff, and he's won AOI over there like 2 of the last 3 years or something. So.
Wow. How does the Bass Federation work? Is that a boater and a co-angler? Or is that a team?
Yeah, it's the same. Yep, it's the same format. It's a draw tournament.
Blind draw.
How many? I didn't look. I'm curious. How many co-anglers caught a fish?
Let's see here. Let me. I got this up over here. Maybe I can share the screen. Share screen.
Or even boaters, I'm just curious how many blanks there were.
Yeah, share. Okay. All right. Are you guys seeing this now? Yeah, it gets kind of small when I do it this way. Here, I can maybe make that a little bigger. Does that make it easy to see? Okay, maybe a little bigger. Yeah, but okay, I can scroll here. So on the boater side, about, let's see, I think there's like 61. So halfway down, Larry, there's my buddy Larry. We were talking. I think I introduced you to him.
Yep.
3 for 6. He usually does pretty well. Wayne Odell. And then, we got a bunch of guys here starting about 48, 50 with 1 fish and down. Yeah. Okay. Only a handful got zonked.
Jeremy Dom, that's a big one. I'm really shocked.
Oh, yeah.
Shocked he blanked. I seen him quite a bit in practice around on some stuff. And then I was actually talking to him while I was waiting for you to get the truck. And he said it was tough on him. I was really shocked when I seen that he didn't have anything.
I tell you, anything can happen to anyone at any day. I've seen it in the USA Basin. I've seen it in these. I've seen it in a bunch of formats. You just make a wrong call or go to the wrong area. You hit the spots at the wrong time, and it's a zonko, right?
The lake was changing drastically. I'm kind of like a lot of the other guys. I thought it would take 16 to 18 probably to win. I know after my first couple days down there, I thought I could catch 14 to 17. I know that's kind of a wide range, but it just, down there, it depends on you get a couple good bites or not. Then Friday, things really started to change and it got kind of tough. And I think I told you Saturday morning, like, I didn't know what to expect. We were just going fishing.
Yep.
It definitely the conditions definitely made it a lot tougher. So I think a lot of guys maybe just got kind of into a game plan and got hard-headed and didn't change fast enough.
Well, yeah, it's hard to change. And what happens in every tournament, there's a lot of people practicing, and that starts building up on the fish. And over 2 or 3 days, whether there's a major weather change or not, fish are always moving this time of year. I mean, they're going out and moving around, and it's been a weird year too. And you pointed out there was an ABT on Sunday. We saw a bunch of people practice, and there's probably people there all week for that one too.
It only took, I'll have to look here, I screenshot of the results, I think it only took 13 pounds to win yesterday. Yeah, it took 13,
I meant the book.
1337 to win that yesterday. So it got even a little tougher. 1321, 1273 was third, and 1262 was fifth. So again, tight weights, typical Shelbyville. Somebody did have a 6-pounder.
Yeah. All right. You asked about the co-anglers here. Well, we got it up and we'll get this out of the way here. Down to Brad was the last guy to catch 3 for 4.6 here at 16. And then it's onesie twosies here and a couple of good fish here and there. Some well-known guys here. And then it cuts down about halfway through here pretty good. And then bottom third, 20 guys, me included, and along with Eric. Dustin too, that's right. Owen, I met him before too. So yeah, about a third. That's tough. And
Yeah, that's this was a rough one for co-anglers. I mean, again, the conditions changed. I honestly thought, the way I was catching them in practice, I thought, my co-angler is going to have a pretty good shot to throw around out of the back of the boat. And obviously, you know what it turned into, and it was tough. And you were dragging in good stuff all day long. There wasn't a lot of bites to be had.
Oh yeah, you were scoping and you had 360, and you're saying, okay, go over here, go over there. I'm like, I wasn't going to throw in front of the boat that said something until you said something. And I could see you set up 360 on the console for me, which I just was putting the final touches on my pleasure bass fishing on Lake Sarah. I've never been down there. I went there a couple of weeks ago. That was pretty interesting. Always a new lake is fun, right? Yeah. But my live transducer broke like the week before. So I'm like, I pulled I didn't have my 360 on too. I just upgraded the lithiums this year because everything was draining the old batteries. I couldn't run them both. So I got the lithium. I'm like, I was going to put it on anyway, and got that on and hadn't used it in a while. And I'm glad I did getting used to it. You had that up there. And I could see the junk. I could see the stumps. I could see the fish cribs, or when we were on those points or shallow areas, you'd be feeling it first and I'd be in the clay. And then I'm like, okay, I can feel the stuff. I'm slowly dragging stuff, trick worms, a power worm, some downsized little creature baits. And I'm dragging it through those little rocks. Exactly like you said. I cannot believe I only got 2 shorts all day and another missed nibble here and there, but I was amazed.
Trying to remember back. I think, outside of the 6 keepers I caught, I don't think I boated more than maybe 2 or 3 shorts, possibly.
Yeah.
Besides, a bunch of crappie and stuff like that.
Well, the crappie, yeah, you're a crappie slayer. You could have had a crappie lunch and dinner, I think.
But no, they're just in general. There wasn't a lot of the fishing. Definitely dropped off.
So, what was your secret to catching them? If what you feel like sharing or not?
It was mainly just the stumps. There were some stumps and some rock piles out there. The fish seemed to be a lot tighter to that kind of stuff than what they were before. I think out of the 5 keepers I caught on the scope, I think I only saw 2 of those. One of them I think I missed. I pulled it off the stump, and you'll probably see in your footage, it actually swam back down and just kind of hovered right there around the stump, and I threw back and caught it again. So I wasn't even really seeing a lot of fish. I was just seeing the structure and just bringing the bait by, and they'd come out pretty quick and eat it. So yeah, I was just throwing I brought some here. I think I talked to you about the Bisbaits ring roller. I don't know if you guys can see that ring roller head. I did have the Crush City freeloader on there. I was throwing just a 4-inch gizzard shad, nothing special.
That's like my, I thought it was funny. That's my best performing swim bait for like scoping
Yep.
And if I'm just like fishing like riprap kind of stuff, I do better with the mare and the paddle tail. But those two baits, man, are just killer for me.
Yep. Yep. Other than that, and then I caught that. So that was my first fight. I think I had maybe by 9:15 or something like that. And we ran to another area, and shoot, we sat on that little point there for probably 15 minutes. Both of us throwing in the exact, right up there in the rock, the rough stuff. And finally threw my shaky head and got lucky, and one swam by it, I guess, and ate it.
I was
the big
fish right there on my
fish.
last 3 casts.
Yeah, I can't remember if that was before or after you got stuck those 2 times on the stump. It might have been right after you got. I think that was after the second time you got snagged and broke off, and we kind of were just working our way back out of that little pocket, a little area there. And I mean, sometimes you got to have a little luck. One just swims by and decides to eat it, and I don't know. We never really figured out that it should have been about a 4-pounder. It was only probably about a 3.5. Really, as skinny as it was, 3.25, 3.5.
Yeah, it was one of those real funny ones. It had this huge. It had a 5-pound yap, and then if you didn't, I didn't look at the body. I was looking at its yap, and it was like on Jenny Craig or something.
It was kind of sunk in, and definitely just in a post spawn. That fish is probably just not far from spawning and moving out still, and haven't really fed back up yet. Be my guess.
Right. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking here. And I thought it was kind of interesting too here, where the spot where you got that one, we worked it a whole time, and then we came back at that same spot the second time to get that one. And I don't think you had another nibble, and I didn't have anything there.
No.
That's just how tough it was. And we probably spent 15 minutes the first time, and then it was probably about halfway through, about another 7-8 minutes the second time to get that one bite.
Yep. And I had caught another 3-pounder there the day before. It was kind of an area I really didn't expect to fish, and I was headed back up Friday, I don't know, around noon or so before I got off the lake, and I just stopped there, and it's kind of an area I usually always fish when I'm there, and I decided to set the hook on one. It was a 3-pounder, and then I decided to go ahead and get off the lake after that. But so there was definitely some fish in that area. I believe that probably wasn't the only fish there. They were just in that not wanting to bite mode.
Yeah, I kind of wonder why. Got any theories on that? I mean, I know it was
just I think it's just the extreme high pressure system coming through. They hadn't had, I'm trying to think what day we got the rain, Tuesday or Wednesday, it rained. I'm guessing they were pretty active all week, because even when I got there Thursday, you could get bit pretty easily, and then it just got tougher and tougher. Pressure.
Like it does during the summer.
There wasn't many boats out Thursday. Even Friday morning, first thing, I was kind of surprised you could fish about anywhere you wanted. And then about mid-morning, the boats started coming out, and I think I finally got off the water by 2:00 Friday. I thought, well, everywhere you wanted to run, there's a boat sitting, and that doesn't help. And, so I think just, the high pressure system, and then the fishing pressure just probably finally just turned them into a sour mood.
Yeah. Kind of, it kind of does that always on tournament weekends, and it just does it on the weekend, and in the tournament weekends worse because of people out there practicing. I thought it was pretty interesting that you had your Garmin Liv Scope up front, but your huge monitor wasn't from Liv Scope, it was through a 360. Now, maybe it's just because you didn't buy a huge Garmin monitor and had it for something else.
I'd like a 16-inch one now, honestly. So I'm new to the Liv Scope. I just got that this year. This is probably only about really only about my 3rd or 4th tournament at a lake where I think you can, that you can catch fish with it. My local Lake Clinton, it's not really a player there. I went to Pickwick with it in March. That was really the first learning experience I had. Got my butt kicked. I caught an 8-pounder the first day and got big bass in the tournament. So that was kind of cool. I actually thought, I would tell you, an 8-pounder looks like a big drum on Liv Scope. I
Oh my
actually
God, yeah.
pulled my bait away. There's a lot of drum and stuff down there on Pickwick, and I was fishing around a lot of them, and I kind of slowly swam up off the bottom, and I almost pulled my minnow away because I'd been catching a bunch of drum, and for whatever reason I didn't and let it eat it, and it ended up being an 8-pounder.
Holy moly, what'd you catch it on?
And then I threw out a lot of drum for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah.
But no,
Finn
so
Horse
like I said,
Monty had his,
new.
their regional was on Pickwick, and they caught lots of drum he's talking about all week.
Yep. So yeah, I'm fairly new to it. So I bought, I think they had those 12-inch on Black Friday sale last year. I bought that, and it's a neat tool. It's definitely, even on Clinton or even on lakes where you're not necessarily targeting individual fish or seeing fish, it's unbelievable just seeing the structure. You could always, I feel like I'm blind without it now. I mean, even if I'm not, again, targeting, even, Shelbyville, for example, that day, I wasn't really seeing a lot of fish, specifically and targeted them, but you can see the structure. You're making, your cast is just more precise. Your bait's where it needs to be every single cast. The 360 is great for that as well, but it's still not live. You don't see your bait as well. That's the other thing I like. I think I threw a spinnerbait a little bit on some of them stumps and stuff. You can watch it and you learn so much on what your bait's doing. How this you think a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait, that's a heavy spinnerbait. Well, if you reel it at just a normal speed, it's not very deep. It shoots right up. So it gives you a lot of great information, regardless whether you're looking at fish or not.
Oh yeah. I made the comment, a week or so ago. It's just like when my Liv Scope broke, I didn't think I depended on it that much, but I'm like, oh my God, I felt blind.
Yep.
I got the 360 in there. It's different. It's cool because it made me find or remember a lot of the structure on the areas I used to fish to see it from that kind of 360 kind of view, and missing some of those stumps and rock piles that are even a little further out, but for lining right up on them and watching your bait, it's you just can't see your bait. And since the 360 paints so slow, unless you're absolutely stopped still, you really can't cast on a target with 360 either.
I think, talking about the tournament and the fishing conditions kind of getting tougher, I think that was the other thing that really hurt Saturday was the wind, obviously. That was my first real experience trying to scope and get my bait where it needed to be in a wind like that. A lot of those places I could set up right, you've seen right directly into the wind and just, casting right into it. But even then, the wind's blowing your line, which is blowing your bait faster, which is, you different rod position. It's a learning experience for sure. And I think that probably hurt some of the other guys that were probably scoping as well, was just the wind.
Yeah, you can't have just a fastball. You need a curve, a knuckleball, a slider, and a changeup, right? Then you can win the World Series.
In hindsight, thinking back now, again, this is part of my learning curve, I think, with it is I was throwing a 1/4 ounce head. I'm going to probably expand my arsenal a little bit, maybe a little heavier head, different bait, bigger baits, maybe something like that, smaller baits. Really play around with it and try to see.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've noticed that same thing as well. And my experience with that was I drew Brody Campbell down at the regional on Dale Hollow a couple years ago. And first thing we do, we're in like 60 feet of water and he's scoping first thing in the morning. And he starts throwing it this school that's 45 feet down. I'm like, oh my God, someone told me. So I bought 1/2 ounce, heads. He's throwing a 1 ounce head on a 2.5 inch swim bait. And he had 20 pounds in the boat in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think
what the weird thing was?
Like
the largemouth. I'm sorry, go ahead.
There's power fishing. I think there's a lot of guys that are throwing heavier heads. 3/8, 1/2 ounce, that gets down there to them. If they eat it, they're great. If not, they're going on to the next fish. Everybody's got their own styles. And
Right. The Fishmore Guy, nice big dog. What's that about? The Fishmore Guy?
Oh, that's
The boat that says Fishmore on it, the raft?
Yep.
You know him?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Welcome to the show. Hey, let's get some questions for Corey. You can give him some questions here. We're just kind of shooting the breeze here. Did I miss any questions here on the side? There's your buddy Kyle. Kyle says, "What's up?" Nice to meet you, Kyle. Thanks for coming on the show here, saying hey. James is here. James got Boater Big Bass here.
Was that a Carolina rig fish, James? I'd like to know.
It's kind of funny. I was telling him, remember, I said, we're going around this point. I said, hey, my buddy James, he loves fishing this area, and he fished this point here. So once we're done in here, we can go around the corner. We go around the corner. Here's James and Kim right there.
I think he had, I think Kim, was it Kim Sapetti? Was she his co-angler?
Partner, yeah.
Yeah. Did she have any? I don't think she had.
She had one. She had like one 1.5 pounder or 112 or something. Hey, a points fish, man. I would have given anything for a points fish.
Yeah.
You know what the sad thing is? All I've got is 3 consolation prizes and 60 points, and I'm in 62nd place, and it comes line 60. Oh, it's so sad. Really? That's how tough it's been on co-anglers this year. And, I was talking with the other co-anglers. It's kind of like the perfect storm of bad things for co-anglers, Yeah. Live scope, hate to say it or not, good, bad, indifferent. You're around fish, but it's tough. Yeah. I think so many people are catching fish with live scope. I really think it is kind of depleting the populations. I think there's so many more tournaments out there and in smaller clubs and stuff that's having an effect on it. And I think, I know Shelbyville and Rend and my small lake, they paid for a biologist to come out to our lake, and they're saying the same thing that they've been saying and trying to get better with on Shelbyville is habitat restoration, because these reservoirs are 40, 50 years old, and a lot of the structures getting silted over, and a lot of the, the cover isn't there or being depleted. And with no grass in them, you can't, if you don't get the forage, you don't get the fish. So it's a lot of tough stuff.
I think Lake Shelbyville is probably doing better than a lot of the other local lakes as far as structure. Bobby cribs or whatever. I actually, one of those fish I caught, I just told you I had a waypoint there, and we pulled up on that point, and honestly, I don't even usually throw at those things. I seen that one with a bunch of fish around it, and I throw there and caught a 3-pound. I think that was my second biggest fish. I caught a 3-pounder. So they've got those rock piles. There's tons of brush piles out there. I think the people, I don't know if it's the lake, the Corps of Engineers, or who it is doing it, but Shelbyville is probably one of the better, stewards of putting in structure and that kind of stuff for the fish. I'm not sure if it's working or not for the fish population there, but at least they're trying.
I'm sure it's got to be. It's got to be helping.
I think you're that Josh Tyner or whatever. I think he said he had 20 keepers or something.
Really?
He said he caught a ton of fish.
Wow. Yeah, Brad said he had a dozen or 18 shorts. They were flipping wood all day and catching a bunch of shorts. And in my practice here, I went out kind of deep to begin with, and I could see them out there, but I couldn't get them to bite. I went in, I started fishing some laydowns, and you'll see us throwing buzzbait, that big old black buzzbait on laydowns. I was getting shorts on that big old buzzbait and a couple of creature baits, a couple of keepers, but it's like it normally is. I think the other thing that affects it is just the class of bass that are in the lake. So if they're coming back, there's a bunch of small ones in there, as the older ones, move on and move out of their prime.
I will say, after fishing Shelbyville multiple times now, it doesn't seem to have a lot of bait fish. You go to some of these other lakes, Clinton, for instance, Power Plant Lake, of course, though, but just tons of bait everywhere, almost too much, which is why I think it's kind of hard to scope out there and stuff. But Shelbyville just doesn't have. You'll see some pods of shad here and there and that kind of stuff. And I don't know if that's from the crappie population hurting it. The other thing I noticed when we were down there in May, you know, a lot of times in May on these lakes, you just see bluegill in the backs in these pockets and stuff. I don't think I saw a single bluegill the whole time I was there in 2 or 3 days in May. And I thought that was kind of odd. I made the comment to a couple of my buddies that, you know, just not seeing many bluegill or anything like that on the bank. Now, I did notice some bluegill beds this week or last week while I was idling some points and stuff. You could see the bluegill beds on site imaging. So they're in there somewhere, but not an abundance of them, I don't think. So I think that's the hurting the bass.
Well, yeah, and then the other thing we talked to people with, and I saw another article on it just today, is they've restocked a bunch of muskie. They used to get a bunch of muskie fishermen in population are down, and they eat the heck out of bluegill. That's originally why they put them in lakes. So okay. I noticed the same thing in every trip I've taken on Shelbyville this year, the tournaments, practice, and a couple of pleasure trips. I just don't see bluegill. Same thing.
Yeah, you usually see them, you know, like I said, May or beginning of June, floating high in the water, you know, sunning themselves. And there's a lot of good little bays and pockets, drains that I call them, where you think bluegill would hang out and you just don't see them. Yeah.
Yeah. You try fishing the shoreline with laydowns. No, we didn't hit many of those.
And I didn't in practice much. I'm an offshore guy. You know, even before Liv Scope or any of that, I enjoy dragging a Carolina rig, you know, especially in June. That's my time to be out, you know, dragging stuff, fishing deeper. And I've always heard, you know, Shelbyville in June, that's how guys catch them. And that's really what jelly worm, 20 feet of water. Okay.
You got your answer. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think Kid was dragging too. She's on.
That was one of the other things after talking to a few people, and I'm not used to fishing that deep. You know, in Illinois, there's not too many lakes where you catch them 20 plus, but I did talk to some guys that were catching fish 20 plus foot deep. Now there was a couple of them times, a couple areas on breaks and stuff where I'd bump my Liv Scope depth down to 25 and I could see down there, but I didn't see anything overly that. And I had that 1/4 ounce head. You know how long it takes for a 1/4 ounce head to get down there and on my wind.
You can eat a sandwich.
I got ADHD. I didn't have the patience to sit there.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, see, Fishmore Guy, you'll still make the regional. I don't know if he's talking to me. You're probably in. Me, yeah, probably just by attrition. I don't know. Maybe I'll catch something on Ren. You know what? I'm not saying anything.
You went to the. You think you said you went to the regional up there last year? What's your take on them going back to the same? It sounds like they had some logistical issues that maybe they're changing around. I didn't go. What's your thoughts on that on the river up there?
Oh yeah, it was really good fun fishing. What had happened was MLF didn't realize the original launch that they planned in the Illinois side. The Corps of Engineer was dredging and redoing, and it was like, forget it. So literally, the day they get up there, the day before the tournament, people are already practicing and calling him. They had to make makeshift plans on the fly the day before. So they went across the street to like Bettendorf. And there's this one ramp they got on in the park there, right in downtown, which was kind of cool. It's really cool to take off in a city. It's like looking at the Bassmaster class that got a Knoxville. You know what I mean? So that was really cool. But the ramp was wide enough for like 1.5 boats, and if you could get 2 boats in there, it was really shallow. The courtesy dock was kind of broken off in half there, so you couldn't hardly pick up your co-anglers, or people were hitting rocks and stuff. So it was kind of crazy. And then a lot of people didn't have experience with locks, and we were right below the lock. And of course, pool 13 is where everyone wanted to go 3 locks up. I did that the second day. I mean, you only got 2 hours to fish. It's 2.5 hours, 3 hours up. And if you hit barges or what, I'm not used to that stuff. People didn't know how to use the lock. So everyone tries to get in the lock. And people were bumping each other. People were losing their trolling mowers. There was almost a fist fight. People were blowing out of the lock and washing people. It was just bad sportsmanship.
Sounds like bass fishing in 2025.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just,
Everyone's a 5-year-old
fights and
again.
arguments.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
now this year, I think they're taking off that above that lock. If I looked at that right, so you'll only have to lock twice to get to pool 13, which will be probably really appealing. I would guess.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Someone said they changed it. It should be on the website. Yeah, I think it's just in front of pool 17. So you're past that lot, or just past it on the Illinois side. And the other thing, it's only going to be 2 divisions instead of 4.
Yeah, it'll be less.
That's another problem, is too many people in locks.
It'll
So
be 120 boats. I think they're taking 60 or 65 from each division.
60 each, and I'm not sure what they do about the automatic winners. Is maybe five tournaments.
Right, yeah,
so up to 60
in the points, and then the winners. That's right.
Yeah. So that should be better. I forgot how many boats were there last year, but it was 4 divisions, I believe, of 45 apiece. So a little less. But no, once you got up there, I did some really good fishing in pool 14. It's kind of river fishing. It's a little bit different.
That'll be new for me.
Yeah, you got to really watch the wing dams. Make sure you have your maps. You can rip out a lower unit on those wing dams, and you can fish them or not see them. You got to know where they are. Mm-hmm. And then there's just some beautiful country up there too. So it's pretty cool. And there's just a ton of laydowns and back channels.
Is there grass in any of those pools, or just is that why guys are running to 13 mainly, fish the grass?
I did not see grass up there, but I believe there is some in areas.
Okay.
Maybe someone else remembers. I did where my boaters went. I did not see grass. I do remember a couple of people talking about it, but they were out in sloughs to get the grass and stuff.
So you said one of your boaters ran to 13?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he catch any fish?
Not on 13. So we took all the time to get up there. We got stuck at the last lock and fished in front of it, waiting for a barge. We get up to his spot, and it looks like a beautiful spot. We pull in. There's 2 boats pulling out, from a local tournament. He didn't have any other spots. That was the one place he kind of dropped in practice. So we fished it, caught some shorts. He lost, I think, a pretty good one. I saw him set a jig on one, and the rod's halfway over doing this, and about 3 seconds and poof, right? Didn't have it.
Okay. Yeah, it'll be.
But there's a lot of other nice places on 13, and being so we're one less lock away. That really opens it up for maybe 3-4 hours of fishing up there if you want to go there, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the winner. I think I know that some of the guys in the top 5, at least 2 of them had. Okay. I think they stayed in the pool, the takeoff pool there, and caught fish. So it seems like, you don't have to make the run to catch fish. I think, a lot of guys thought, there's not a lot of history, a lot of information on pools 14 and 15 and 16 or whatever.
That was the other controversy. So on day 1, there was a few fish caught there. On day 2, there was no rules about the release area.
Yeah, I remember.
A bunch of people called in and talked, and the boats just went right there, and they were like, there was a boat with 2 co-anglers because some guy, a boater had to jump out or broke his motor. They all limited out and called many times.
Wow.
Yeah. So
those river fish are dumb. That's what they said.
Yeah, that's what they said. And they're like, it couldn't have been just release fish. It was just that it was a spot. Area. So, yeah. Just the way the ball bounces, live and learn, right?
Okay.
Oh, you did see a bunch of bluegills. Okay.
Well, again, I think he made the comment he was fishing the bank with laydowns.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. A lot of the bluegill beds and that kind of stuff that I was seeing on site imaging were around laydowns on the bank. Pool 15.
Oh, pool 15. Is that where we're on? Yeah. we're taking off from. Yeah.
So you got to lock into 14 and then into 13. So you still have to
Oh,
lock
yeah, by the
off.
casino. Yeah, that's right. Right in the casino.
That sounds dangerous.
Yeah. Who's going to get any sleep?
I remember we fished a 6-man up at, I think that's Dubuque, which is like pool 12. And we stayed at a casino and they had like dog betting and stuff there. And we didn't get to bed any too early.
Yeah, but a fun time was had by all, right?
Pool 14 had grass and pads. Okay. I plan to probably,
I didn't see any
take a
grass
trip
and
up there,
pads.
and I'll probably
Oh, I
try
saw pads. What am I saying? Yeah. You know what? I did see some right by the lock there, but that was about it. I'm sure there was more. It's just where my boater went to. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'll probably take a trip up there in August maybe and look around, have a scouting trip.
Yeah, that's what my link. We were planning a trip up there, but his schedule changed and some financial stuff's changed, so that's why I had to change and get links for these next 2 tournaments. And I was lucky enough, I got Adam Bookman to sign up for Ren because he didn't have one, so I got one there. But he's going to stay in the Super on Kentucky, so maybe I'll get my participation badge and punch the ticket in. Only if they didn't have an off limits. Yeah, Eric. Poor Eric and I are in the same bucket, and Eric's a much better angler than I am, and he's been zonked every time too.
Who's that? What's his name?
Bass and STL, Eric Mann.
Oh,
Co-angler. He's got a boat too. You know, we both got a boat, and we just like, okay, you know, we're filling out these tournaments. I grew up in the Chicago area, so my dad and I, we did a lot of trout, salmon, perch, you know, some walleye fishing up in Wisconsin, but not bass fishing up there until I got down here. So I didn't start bass fishing casually to about 2014, and I didn't even do my first tournament until 2022. So in bass fishing, I'm still a rookie.
I still feel that way, and I think I've been fishing tournaments since my son was born in 2011. So that's probably about when maybe 2010, 2011 was when that's part of fishing, time on the water, and there's always, you never know it all.
Yeah, so many uncontrolled variables. That's what makes it so exciting, you know, because you never know what's going to happen, and the thrill of figuring it out, man, just starting to figure out a pattern or put it together, you know, you know.
Well, and the other thing, I've fished a lot of team circuits, and the co-angler thing is completely, I mean, I fished the Federation, you know, I fished a handful of tournaments where you have a co-angler, and I don't know, some people say I'm too nice. I want my co-angler to catch a fish. You know, I tried, you know, when I finally got my 5, you know, I was lining up and telling you, hey, cast up here.
Oh, I know.
And it's a different strategy to try to, you know, get your co-angler some fish as well. And I know some guys say, well, that's not your problem. You're out there, you know, you just go fishing and let them. But I know everybody wants at least that 1 points fish.
Well, yeah. And you know what? 90% of boaters, man, you know, they'll go out of their way to try and help you at least get
the only thing that probably would have been easier for you if they'd let you fish off the front deck. If you could have.
But I can't. That's the rules. I'm not breaking the rules.
Yeah.
I do it fair and square. I'll go down in flames. So when's your next Bass Nation tournament?
So the tournament is July 14th. I take that back. July 16th through the 18th. That's on Lake Erie. I'm actually going to go up there next weekend, or I guess this coming weekend, that is already, for 3 or 4 or 5 days, however long I feel like I need up there, I guess. And kind of just like a little summer vacation, go catch some smallmouth, probably fish. So we can fish Lake Erie, the Detroit River, or Lake St. Clair. We're actually taking off out of Monroe, Michigan, which is, from the research I've done, is the farthest from the best smallmouth, you know, bass fishing places on Lake Erie. So you either have to run 30 miles across Lake Erie to get over what they call the islands area, you know, Pelee, Bass Islands, that area, or you make the 35-mile run to St. Clair, or you fish the river in between. So I'm going to spend some time on all 3 areas, I think, when I'm up there, and just kind of get a feel for my type of fishing. And then the lake goes off limits next week on the 3rd for 10 days, and then official practice starts on the 12th. I'll go back up there. So get 3.5 days of official practice, and then 3 tournament days, only the top 20 fish on the final day.
How many will be entered?
I think we had 160 boats at the Pickwick one. So they had Pickwick, and then they had Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma, and James River, and right at the end of April, maybe May. I think the James River only had like 120 boats. So they take the top 10% directly to the Bass Nation National Championship, which will be out of La Crosse in October. So I think I don't know. Quite a few guys have already qualified. I would expect anywhere from 120 to 160 boats.
How far of a drive is it for you? About 8 hours?
I think it's 6 hours.
6? Okay.
To Monroe, where we're taking off. St. Clair's probably another hour. So I figured, 6 hours, 7-hour drive time, probably time you stop, fuel up, and that kind of stuff.
So what kind of techniques do you think you're gonna try and use out there?
I'd like to use what I like to fit. I'm not a finesse guy. I think I told you that too. Again, being new to forward-facing sonar, I bought my first spinning rod in 10 years this year. But they have,
that's what he caught him on, guys.
The Cashin forward-facing sonar rod. Check it out. The river's a lot of current, and there's actually some grass and some decent largemouth fishing. My buddies tell me I'm crazy that I'm going to go up there and try to catch a largemouth, but I'm sure I'll have to spend at least a day or half a day looking at the back bays of, grass, punch and bite, that kind of stuff, frogging, this time of year. But you get out in the current, it's typical smallmouth stuff, drop shot, tube, swim bait. And I found some historical tournament stuff from up there. Guys catch them on a 3/4 ounce spinner bait. Smallmouth always, spinner bait, especially in the river and the current stuff.
Yeah, top water.
Top water, yeah, on the flats and stuff in the mornings, definitely.
Yep. So
I'm gonna probably spend my. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I'm probably gonna spend my first couple days in the river, just because I feel like that'll suit my style a lot more than the open. I mean, I've never fished smallmouth, Great Lake smallmouth. So I think I'll spend the first day at least, or a couple days in the river, just to see if I can't get some confidence there and in ways I like to fish before I go out just on the ocean, I guess you could pretty much call it, and try to find.
In a bass boat, the lake is like an ocean.
Looking at the weather, the winds, it's supposed to be 5 to 10 or 10 to 15 for the 4 or 5 days I'm going to be there. Knock on wood that kind of holds up. And it's a south. Yeah. Most days it's supposed to be a south or a southwest wind, which on that side of the lake gives you some protection.
Right.
So I'll spend some time out on the lake. I think it'll be a good experience. But yeah, out there it seems, 3 baits. You need a drop shot, a tube, and a swim bait. And that pretty much covers it all. Right.
I wanted to go back, guys love gear, back to your forward-facing setup there. You said you love that Cashin swim bait rod or forward-facing rod. What is that? What's the action? What's the length?
So it's a 7.5. It's a 7.5 length. It's a medium light action. So it's got a really whippy tip, which I think helps just the casting distance, these lighter baits and that kind of stuff. And then also just when you're shaking, the thing with the minnow is you just kind of shake your rod tip. It gives that rolling action on the minnow, and that rod tip, I think whippy rod tip just helps, and it's light. It's it's a light action rod, but even the rod itself is just super light in the hand. It's not, it's not heavy. It's something you can handle throwing all day long.
What kind of reels do you like? Spinning reels?
I throw Shimano reels on all my stuff. Bait casters and spinning reels. I don't have a lot of experience with the spinning reels. I bought some, I don't know, $130. Couldn't even tell you what they are, to be honest with you. But yeah.
And you also said you like that Bisbaits head you were showing? That's a new head?
Yeah. So yeah, it's the ring, and I got one here with a. So they also have a minnow that kind of looks, resembles a. It's too close. The freeloader. I think I started throwing this when I ran out of the freeloaders, but it's got a. I don't know if you guys can see that. It has a welded head. A lot of guys want to tie the. It's kind of hard to see how you do that. A lot of guys, it's still hard to see. Or you can kind of see the ring there on the line tie. A lot of guys tie a loop knot with that minnow. And again, it just helps it give it that rocking action. With that welded ring on there, you just tie whatever your favorite knot is right to that. And it just helps that bait, have that action when you shake that rod tip.
Nice. Well, it was working on Saturday. I saw it.
That's also what I caught my 8-pounder on at Pickwick, was that ring roller head. So.
Oh, wow.
It's got
come back to the beginning of the telecast. You didn't answer it then, so I wasn't going to ask.
Yeah, it's got the BKK super sticky hook in there. It's got a slick coating on it, so it's a pretty slick hook.
Nice. And where do you get? I mean, Tackle Warehouse probably has anything.
Yeah, Tackle Warehouse has got their stuff. And so they're a small company out of North Carolina. I kind of gave you Brian's backstory. Brian went to Illinois State University here close to me, and I met him through fishing. And he won their business competition there, was making baits out of their spare bedroom in their house, college house. And he's from Chicago originally, moved to North Carolina to build a bait company. He's really kind of blown it up over the last couple of years. They've got a booth at the Classic. That's actually, they introduced this head at the Classic this year. So yeah, they have a website, bisbaits.com, or Tackle Warehouse carries most of their stuff. They've got some other plastics, a couple craws, some worms. And then they have this, which is the minnow, which is just the minnow. And then they actually have the same body style, but it's got a boot tail. I think they've got those on Tackle Warehouse as well. It's just a, 4.5 inch. I think they also have this. This is a 4.5. I think they call it 4.5. Then they also have a 3.5 smaller version. They've got both of those with a boot tail on them as well.
Nice. Brad's asking if you've ever fished Kentucky Lake before. That's where our super tournament's going to be this year.
I have not. If I don't have anything going on, I plan to maybe go down for the super tournament, even if I don't need to for the points. Just I've always wanted to get down there. It's close.
Yep.
I was talking to my buddy today. I was like, man, I wish we knew somebody that had a place down. It'd be nice just go down and fish for 4 days. It seems like the lake's really coming back, and they're catching some down there.
It is. It is definitely. And it's smallmouth too. You get some practice on smallmouth.
Yeah.
Maybe a little late now, but
maybe I'll take a trip in between when the lake goes off limits.
Yeah, there you go.
How long will you stay on your pattern if you're not catching quality fish? That's a tough question. With forward-facing sonar, that changes a little bit because you can. I used to be a run and gun type of fisherman. If this time of year in June, I like to fish deep. I'd be a guy that'd hit 50 spots on a day. I'd pull up, make 10 or 15 casts, and if you don't get a bite, I'm going to the next one. Forward-facing sonar changes that a little bit because you can see what's there, and you can read their mood. Read their mood a little bit. So, are they following the bait? Are they, not even looking at it? Are they tight? Are you seeing fish at all? Whatever. So that's kind of a loaded question, I guess, a flyby, what you're seeing type of question.
Yeah, what's interesting, Tin Horse fished with Jake Lawrence 3 years ago in the BFL in Kentucky Lake. And I believe it was that one and maybe another one with someone else. And he goes, I'm pretty sure it was him. And he's like, well, he was the same way. He's like, he come up, he's got his 50 spots, his 50 brush piles and stumps or whatever. He says 80-90% of the time you make the right first cast, either they're going to hit it or they're not. And he wouldn't spend, if he's not seeing followers or doesn't get bit, he wouldn't spend more than 8-10 casts at a spot and move on. Now, maybe it's because conditions. I was thinking about this when we were at Shelbyville, a couple spots. When you stayed on him for a while longer, and perseverance paid off.
So I was just thinking that in my head, that spot where I caught that shaky head fish. And I think what made me stay there was the wind was blowing in there just right. I had caught a fish, I caught a quality fish there the day before. I know, just the way that area sets up, it's kind of just a rock ridge on it, coming out of a spawning pocket. Those fish are using that, right now. And, we stayed there a little longer than, what I normally would have. And I think, again, I got a bite. If I hadn't got a bite there the day before, a quality bite there the day before, I know there's no way that. And, there was a couple other little areas or spots in that area that we were talking about, and there were boats on them. I was kind of waiting for those boats to move so I could go fish those other stumps and stuff that I had marked the day before.
Right. John is the inquisitive one tonight.
You go deeper if the shallow bite isn't there. This time of year, June, obviously, that's when, the fish are moving out. I think it's more of a seasonal thing than it is. Again, if it's June, I'm probably fishing deep, live or die. I didn't even think about a shallow bite this week at Shelbyville, which, when I showed up in practice Thursday and Friday and seen some schools of fish, and, I had no reason to go shallow. But definitely water temperature, that water temperature is 75 plus, if I am on a shallow bite. There's like the local lake here, we've got grass, and I like to fish grass and that. And it's kind of just a feel, I like to still start out shallow, for the first hour. And you can usually tell pretty quick if the shallow bite's going to be on. If not, I'm off the bank.
Yeah. And a lot of people, talked about Shelbyville this weekend. Like, I felt about it for 3-4 years. Yeah. You can get a shallow bite for the first couple hours of daylight, and after that, forget it.
Yep.
Some people say, oh no, well, Brad does well, still persevering on, playing the number games with either shallow riprap or brush or laydowns. But we lost a ton of laydowns when they put all that riprap last year. They pulled them all back in front of the riprap, so not as much as there was.
I think that's one of the other, it's great. We talked about this, them putting a lot of habitat stuff back in Shelbyville. The coves still just don't have a lot of spawning habitat. I struggle down there in May just because I don't know what to go fish. 2 years ago, my first BFL, I got a top 10 and I was just fishing second. They hadn't really moved, and they were really on the secondary points and that kind of stuff. Okay, cool. They, so
I'll hook you up. I'll hook you guys up.
Yep, definitely. So yeah, I think somebody needs to take a chainsaw down there, but with the water fluctuation, you might need a chainsaw and a tow rope to cut them down and then pull them into the water. But
oh yeah, about 5 or 6 years ago, there's this great tree laydown on a primary lake point, and man, I could catch 1 or 2 really nice bass every time I went by for like 2 years. And then a big flood came in and pushed it back.
Now it's
just like halfway back, forget it, game over.
I probably need to expand on that a little bit more. I feel like I'm getting, you've seen my map with the amount of waypoints I have as far as offshore structure, secondary points, and that kind of stuff. I probably need to. I told myself when I went there in May this year that I was going to do that. And I went into the back of the pockets, and I never really found any pockets that were really appealing to me as far as having a lot of laydowns. Now the ones, that's my tournament partner there asking about the lunch pack. He knows I always got the snacks packed.
He had his peanut butter and jelly. What do you call those things?
Yep, Uncrustables and beef jerky, and yep. But no, I said I went into some of them pockets and nothing really. I caught some fish I'm a frog guy. I like frog fishing. We got grass here on the home lake, and if Shelbyville had grass in it, I'd probably never leave the bank. But the pockets just have never really been appealing to me in the few times I've been down there.
The only ones that if they have like brush piles or even those I didn't know what they were at first. I saw that I thought someone like threw an old UHF TV antenna in the bottom. I guess that's how they made crappie attractors like 10, 20 years ago. It's just a bunch of PVC in a ball, and it looks like a space blob thing. and stuff, and little rocks, or where you got some water inflows, or some of the coves, you got to spend the time to go all the way back and find some sneaky laydown, but if you can't see it from the main lake. So some of those come and go, but you got to know about them. You got to put your time in on the lake, and it's 420 miles of shoreline. It takes a while. By the time you get around, they're gone.
The May BFL down there, I had one fish this year, and I mean, I did fish shallow in practice, and I got some bites. Again, I thought I'd catch more, and again, there's so few laydowns in there, and you get fishing pressure, and everybody's fishing the same areas. And I finally got lucky. I think I pulled up at 1 o'clock and flipped on a laydown that probably 16 other boats had been by, and finally, just got lucky and caught one.
Yeah, reloaded. Yeah. So you're not going to fish Ren Lake? You haven't been down there?
Never been.
Yeah, it was pretty. Talk about horrible, man. That first one was ultimate horrible.
It seems like
TD said it might have been the worst BFL ever he's seen.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Well, the water was super high, right? And I think the fish
cold.
Yeah. Gives the fish a lot of room to hide, and it doesn't seem like a very fun lake. If I don't have to go there for anything,
Yeah.
I don't think
I mean, sometimes, you can get some good 18, 20-pound bags out of it, There's some key areas. It's kind of a big flat bowl, basically, on the south end, and on the north end, it can get really dirty and shallow. And then there's a ton of timber and logs up on the north side, of which you can, bang up your boat, pull out a unit. But people go there and find them. I mean, they, weave their way through it, but it's pretty gnarly. But there's a lot of stuff up there. I hear there's a lot of junk fish up there. I hear it used to be a lot better, but kind of water flow dependent. They got a lot of wetlands that feed into it up that way,
Okay. Yeah, I've driven over it or by it there a couple times going down to Lake Egypt, or
Oh, Egypt! I love Egypt.
Yeah, I went down. I think the last 2 springs now and fished the Federation. The Federation always starts their year down there in March, or
early March, late February.
Yep. Yeah, it's a fun lake. I think it's changed to what it used to be in March. I don't know if the power plant's not running as hot or what. I know guys used to go down there even before that, early and catch them really good.
Yeah, Gabe was saying something about that earlier this year. They've cut down production, and I don't know if I forgot if that one they were retrofitting or they were trying to phase it out because it's coal, and all the on-off with coal or solar or replenishables and nuclear and all that stuff. Newton, have you been to Newton?
Not recently. Went there last year I think that was last year. Yeah, last year for a tournament in May. That's the last time I've been. Actually, my buddy and I were talking today about maybe taking a trip down there in the next couple of weeks. He's wanting to. That's another lake that they say forward-facing sonar, you can really learn a lot. Drew Gill, I actually talked to Drew Gill in the parking lot down at Pickwick back in February after Toyota, and I asked him, being from Southern Illinois, what's the best lake in Illinois to learn? And he said either Newton or Egypt. And I know June at Newton can be, really good. Now, they don't allow any tournaments down there, so you don't see a lot of results and that kind of stuff.
Right. And is it like a 10 or a 25 horse lake too, right?
It's a 25 horse lake, but it's small enough you can put you can take a big boat down there and put your trolling motor down, and there's enough good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Brad says if you want to do that open water, you like deep water, Dale Hollow is for you. Have you been down there?
No. Is that where the regional was 2 years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was my first year I fished the BFLs, and that was my goal, was to make the regional and go to Dale Hollow. I think I told you I had an accident. I got poked in the eye in April, and that kind of ruined my fishing plans. I had a couple eye surgeries and still have no vision in my left eye, but that was my plan that year because I'd heard Dale Hollow was fun and was going to fish and try to make the regional and go to Dale Hollow, and then had that eye accident, so kind of ruined the plans there.
Yeah. Ouch, an eye accident. That's scary stuff.
I don't know. I always joke with my buddies. I said, man, if I ever can see that Liv Scope screen with 2 eyes, you guys are in trouble.
You guys are in trouble. Oh,
no, I think I told you I've been going to the University of Iowa. Going back up there to July 24th to try another procedure on it to try to get me some vision back in it. So hopefully I'll start getting better.
Oh, they'll just give you a bionic eye or a set of VR goggles and you'll be set.
Yeah, the eye thing's kind of, it's kind of like fishing technology. The eye technology in the last 5 years, they say, has just been, unreal what they can do anymore.
Really, I haven't heard or read much on it, but everything else has been going. So as far as like surgeries, reconstructive surgeries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All righty, everybody. Here we're at 1:10 here. We're kind of fizzing a little bit. If you got a couple last minute questions here, we'll hit it. If not, I gotta say, Corey was an awesome boater. Really nice guy. Really tried to get me on fish here. I learned a little bit more about live scoping. Learned a few more sneaky parts on the lake here that you always learn as a co-angler here. I'm not talking about, but I know next time I get out there, I'm dying to go to a couple of those.
Let's not show too much on your video now.
I'm not.
We fished kind of. I think everything we fished was community areas. I think I told you, I had that one school or one spot that I thought maybe was kind of sneaky. And then, we watched two or three boats fish that spot. We didn't end up, chose to start on, which we had kind of a mid-pack boat draw. And I chose to start on a different spot. And then we get back there to that spot and there was, we watched 2 or 3 boats fish it. So I guess it wasn't as sneaky as I thought it was. And then I actually pulled up, I think I caught 2 keepers there, even after the 2 or 3 boats fished it.
Oh yeah. That whole area, I haven't done good in the last few years, so I haven't been back there in so long, and I'm like, wow, a lot of people there last tournament and this tournament,
And I think the wind. It's no wake back in there. I think the wind, pushed a lot of people back in there. It got crowded in there in the afternoon.
That too. And lakes, I kind of feel. I'm just on a little 200-acre lake, and I swear it's cyclical. Spots are good, for 2 or 3 years. I mean, some are always good, obviously, because of the structure of the lake. But it seems like it changes. They kind of every 2 or 3 years. Maybe it's just the individual fish and their behaviors, but things kind of move around a little bit every.
Move around.
Yeah. You notice that up at the other lakes, Clinton too.
On these small lakes that we have in Illinois, I think a lot of that's, you got a lot of tournaments taken off out of one ramp, and a lot of fish get moved. I think that's a lot of it.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's, you hit on that earlier, is all these extra everybody wants to start their own tournament circuit, anymore. They don't like one rule, or they don't like one thing that, somebody does in the tournament director does, well, I'll just start my own club. Well, next thing you know, they take 5 or 6 boats, from that club. It's just, there's so many different tournament organizations going to these lakes and stuff now, and lots of extra tournaments, extra pressure, and they're all taking off. We don't have, huge lakes with 10 different ramps to take off out of that can hold tournaments. And
right.
We see that on the local lake. The fish population, some of the areas of the lakes, just really been depleted, it feels like.
Yeah, like you take that example. I think you said Clinton's about 5,000 acres, isn't Shelbyville like 11,000 or something like that? So about twice the size, but tournaments just as big. So it's got a ton of big pleasure boats on it too, right?
Yes.
Oh, lost my earpiece there. Oops. All righty, guys. Thank you so much for coming on, Corey. We all appreciate you coming on and sharing. Best of luck in your Bass Nation here. Go kill it and get your top 12 there, and then we'll be happy to have you back to report on that later in the year here, and or hope to see you down at Kentucky Lake, and I'll hook you guys up in the background if you want on fishing stuff.
All right, Jeff. No, I appreciate it and enjoyed fishing with you, and thanks for having me on, and take care.
Yeah, you too, my friend. Keep your lines tight, everybody. And see you next week. I don't know who the guest is going to be. It kind of goes to the last minute sometimes. Sometimes we don't have a guest and we just invite people to hop on. If you've got some topics you want to hit next week or anything, email me and let me know. Or if you got some people you want me to try and get on. At first, I was a nobody. I couldn't get anybody on, but people are saying yes more and more, lately, because there isn't really anybody doing this for this infamous Illini division. All right. Over and out, everybody. Good
Take
night
care, guys.
and have a good week.